Levim she'avdu avodat kohanim o shesiya Levi b'mlacha she'ena melachto. The Levi did the work of the Kohanim, or the Levi helped someone do work that was not his. The death, once again, I just said this, was misa b'dei shemayim, at the hands of heaven. That means we don't enforce it, but we understand that he deserves it. They shall not die. Means that if they keep the halacha, they shall not die because God will not cause them to die. Let's say Kohen does the Levi's job. They shouldn't. They're not punished with death at the hands of heaven. It's just a thou shalt not, but not the kind. Most thou shalt nots, the punishment is lashes. By the way, what?
I might be misremembering. I think there was something in Ezra.
Yes.
Where the Levim help the Kohanim.
Unaware. Okay. Sorry. And of course they say that the Ravid says, you can read the Ravid, Amar Avram, V'alo kfar ne'emar v'lo yamutu gam hem gam atem. What do you mean? The Kohanim are told, don't do this, both you and the Kohanim and the Levim. Gam atem, gam hem, lo yamutu. So it's implying that the Kohen who does this, yes, he should get Misa B'dei Shemayim, against what the Rambam says. Okay. Sarachiyun. And that's the last halacha in this chapter. The Kohanim huvdalu miklal alavim la'avodat korbanot. The Kohanim have been separated from the rest of the Levites to do what? To offer the sacrifices. As it says, Vayibadel Aaron la'akdisho kodesh kodeshim. Aaron was separated in order to sanctify him, holy of holies. Okay, that's Aaron. And that's also from Divrei Yomim, which because Divrei Yomim, why is Rambam all these things from Divrei Yomim? Because all these records of the Kohanim Levim were actually kept there. The whole idea that we know about the Mishparot HaKehunah, Mishparot Leviyah, is in Divrei Yomim. It's mentioned in Ezra and Nehemiah, but Ezra and Nehemiah are basically Ezra. You know, they say he wrote his own book. He wrote Divrei Yomim also. He compiled it from all these lists because it wasn't necessary to be in the books of Nevi'im, but it's there. It was kept as a list, so we know this. So the fact that Aaron was different from the other Levium, okay, has to be explicit in Divrei Yomim. It is a positive commandment to separate the Kohanim, to sanctify them, and to prepare them for the service. Who's he talking to? The Beis Din, probably, not me. It's not. My job is to treat the Kohanim differently and respect them. It's very interesting. You have two groups you have to be more respectful. There's the converts, to whom you have to show extra love. And then there's the Kohanim to whom you have to show extra reverence. The rest of Am Yisrael is just basic Ahavta l'recha kamocha. Okay, so very interesting, two special groups. As it says, V'kidashto ki et lechem elecha hu makriv. You shall sanctify him because he offers your God's bread, so to speak. God uses bread as a mashal for the korban in a few places in the Torah. V'tzarech kol adam Yisrael linhog bahem kavod harbei. Every man in Israel has to treat them with great respect or reverence. Hakdim otan l'chol davar shebik dusha. Underline that word shebik dusha. They have to go first whenever talking about holiness. For example, livtuach b'Torah rishon. Who gets the first aliyah? Who reads in the Torah first? The Kohen. Uvarech rishon. He says the blessing first. What are we referring to here? Most say it means that he is the one who leads the benching, the grace after meals, Birkat Hamazon. And here's something that I thought was interesting. V'litol mana yafa rishon. He also takes a nice portion first. So you look in that Gemara there. What was it? It's in Gittin, I think. Gemara in Gittin? I think it's Gemara in Gittin.
The one about Kohen on Rishon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in Gittin. Yeah, it's right in the middle of Gittin there. So I was familiar with Rashi and Tosfos say. Rashi means if you're dividing up something with the Kohen, so the Kohen gets first pick. And Tosfos seems to say that also you're at the meal. You have a nice barbecue, the Kohen gets the better steak. And that's the way, by the way, we practice at the house. The kids wonder, we had a guest for Shabbos. A Kohen. The Kohen lives down the block. Mr. Kohen sits with us. So I always make sure, here, we got a question. Just showed up. I think, hold on one second. I want to see this. I'm trying. I have to double click this. Yes, Gittin 59b. Nehemiah says Gittin 59b. Thank you. So I'll look that up afterwards. The point is in that Gemara that it seems to be saying that the Kohen gets dibs on the food first, and you should serve him first, and that's why we do it in front of the children. Why do we give him the nicer piece of chicken or whatever first? Because he's the Kohen. Fine. But Rav Kapach points out that that's not necessarily the case. You see that it says davar shebik dusha. It means that when you're dividing up sacrificial food, I guess if you would have a korban todah or in Korban Todah means the one that you can invite. He could share it with Israelites, Kohanim, slaves, anybody who happens to be there, as long as they're a qualified Jew. Slaves are Jews too, by the way. They just have to go to mikveh. They have to eat Korban Pesach like everybody else. Or if you have the situation where it's Korban Pesach. Korban Pesach, everybody's equal at Korban Pesach. The Kohen and his slave sit down together. So what happens? And the convert also, and the wife, anybody who's bar mitzvah basically has to eat Korban Pesach. So you decide, well, you're going to cut the Korban Pesach and meat. The nicest portion goes to the Kohen. Fine. So Rav Kappa points out that's bikdusha, not like Rashi and Tosfos. So it has to be, it's regards to this. But I guess the nafkami would be that if you would have, if it's non-sacrificial meal, it's not kedusha. So you don't necessarily have to make sure that the Kohen picks the first slice of pizza, the one that looks like it's nicest. Yeah, what's the question?
How about with Shuvit?
Well,
Shuvit and Shmita.
yeah, what about it?
Is that counted as kedusha?
So to pick, I guess if you're eating the kedusha, but usually here it means like kedusha related to the Kohen. I mean to eat, let's say they're eating peaches.
Yeah.
The Rosh Koel who just entered gave us all a load of peaches, like a basket of peaches the other day. So if we're serving it to everybody, would the Kohen get to pick the first peach because kedushat shvi? Good question. I don't know. According to Rav Kapach, maybe. According to Rashi and Tosfos, it's even like we said, secular meals.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned that, for example, we give the Kohen a share of the food, right? Let him pick first. So that's one practical aspect. If we hold that that's what the Torah is saying, they should let him take a litol mana rishon. What about other examples? There's one thing that Hakpadah, the Rambam doesn't mention, and that's using a Kohen. Okay? That is asking a Kohen to do something for me. Kohen, open the door for me. Hand me that book. Or help me with something. So there are many who have a Hakpadah based on the Shulchan Aruch that you shouldn't make use of a Kohen. You've seen this? You heard people do this? And it's actually mentioned there. It's straight up in the Shulchan Aruch. It says, let's see it inside, or else see your brachos here. It's found in Bar-Hayim, Kuf Kaf Chet. Okay? So there you can see there's Taz, there's a villain going there. And it's based on this passage in the Rishonim. You shouldn't make use of a Kohen. You shouldn't have a shimush with him. You're familiar with this. People have told you this before. It's in the Shulchan Aruch. It's not in the Rambam. So usually our question is, why is it that there's a halacha? Why would the Rambam leave out a halacha? Sometimes you find these things, you think it's a straight halacha, but really it's not. Okay? At least in the way the Rambam would have it. But it's our job to explain why. And there's basically an answer you could find like through the Vilna Gaon gives it over here. He hints to it. It says in the Rishonim and Brachos, in the 8th chapter, the 5th halacha, that I think it was Abba Bar Chana, Bar Chana, Rav Huna were sitting and eating. Rabbi Zeir was serving them. Okay, Rabbi Zeir is a Kohen, and Abba Bar Chana said basically what was here. Hold on, it came time to hold the cup of wine, the fragrant oil. You make the bracha on the shemen, and the bracha on the wine. So he was basically holding it in his hand. So Abba Bar Chana told him, "What, are your hands cut off or something? You're missing a hand. Just use one hand this, one hand that. Do like Beis Hillel said." Okay, and his Bar Chana, this is Abba Bar Chana, so his father is Bar Chana. Okay, basically told him, you're being really chutzpahdik to Rabbi Zera. He's a Kohen. As a matter of fact, he should be sitting. Rabbi Zera should be sitting. And you should be serving him. That's basically said. And let's say, well,
What is the source of
this is Brachos 8:5 in Yerushalmi. Okay, so that's kind of funny. He basically gave Rav Huna some musar. Okay, so then there's Rav Acha said in the name of Shmuel, pasuk from Ezra. Okay, Ezra told the Kohanim, "You're holy, and so are God's temple appointments holy." So just like someone who uses, let's say, temple kalim is committed me'ilah, so someone who makes use of the priests has committed me'ilah. Okay, so Rav Huna, I guess. I got it confused, like the names. It's very confusing. Rav Huna basically got musar Rabba Bar Chana. Abba Bar Chana got musar from his father, okay, Bar Chana, and he said you should know it's not right that you're using the Kohen as your waiter, and you should be serving him. Seems pretty clear halacha. So why is it that Rambam would leave this out, this halacha? We find it in Shulchan Aruch, by the way. So the answer is that, well, first of all, It wasn't. You could have asked, why was Rabbi Zera serving them to begin with? And the answer is sometimes it's a privilege to serve a great scholar. Okay, so if you had someone serving, let's say Rabbeinu Tam, so it's fine. I'd like to offer the answer that the Rambam doesn't bring this as halacha because Lemaisa from Lichatchila, Rabbi Zera was serving them. And the halacha, there is no such halacha that a Kohen can't act as a waiter or a person can't use a Kohen as a waiter. A Kohen can do that himself. A Kohen can choose to have a job that's menial, by the way, if he likes the money. There's no actual halacha against this. It's just that once Abba Bar Chana had said something inappropriate, he basically had waived his right. Now it's inappropriate because he's being chutzpahdik. It's wrong for the Kohen to serve him. So the Rambam is not bringing this as an actual halacha because really a Kohen can opt. He can sort of waive his kedusha in this respect. Okay, make sense? What?
So why wouldn't you mention that aspect of it? If you're a person who's not worthy, you can't demand a Kohen.
Okay, so the Rambam doesn't have all the laws of respect, but basically, I think it's basic derech eretz that someone who's on a certain level of a scholar, etc., he's a Kohen and a scholar, should not demean himself by serving those of lesser stature. And lahefich, someone of a certain stature should know he should not allow someone who's higher than him waiting on him. It's basic ideas. It's like the youth also. There's cases where you had the youth being waited on by the elders, and they had to tell them, "Hey, that's not right." Derech eretz. The older people should be sitting, and the younger people should be serving them, right? So that's what I think.
What about
What?
asking a Kohen a favor?
Well,
What about asking a Kohen simply a favor?
so that would be permissible according to the Rambam. That's what I'm trying to get at. This whole idea of Shmuel, Rav Acha saying the name of Shmuel, it's like Me'ilah. It's like Me'ilah, but it's not Me'ilah. Me'ilah is an actual halachic category. There's once again another example. Don't confuse a gadata with halacha. Me'ilah is when you take temple property and use it for your own purposes. And there's a punishment, there's a penalty fee, people have to say the korban, etc. That's a real halacha thing. Having someone use a Kohen, here, Kohen, help me out for a minute, that's not actually Me'ilah. The Torah doesn't say, don't ask the Kohen this. Like we said before, if Kapach is very strict, V'kidash Torah, it talks about when you're doing something that's holiness, the Kohen goes first. So he has to read the Torah first. He gets a piece of the sacrificial meat first. But it doesn't mean that regular day to day, you can't ask a Kohen for a favor, or the Kohen can't help you out a little bit. So that's why the Rambam doesn't bring this halacha that you find Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch is basically bringing like many times, a lot of other halachas that the Shulchan Aruch brings that the Rambam doesn't mention, but it's not a halacha, it's what? It's midat chasidut. Let's give an example. Putting on the right shoe first. Right shoe, then left shoe, correct? That's right at the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, right? Does the Rambam bring such halacha? No, you know why? Because it's not actually, there's no prohibition of putting on the left shoe first. There's no mitzvah to put on the right shoe first. It's a proper act, but the Rambam is not going to bring every single proper act and going to tell you don't do every single improper act. He's also going to tell you, use your head a little bit. And sometimes there's just too much. You can't put every single example of proper behavior into a code. Okay, so I hope that clarifies that halachic issue. Bottom line is, it's a good thing, by the way, as educational purposes, to treat Kohanim differently. Teach your kids who's a Kohen. Also, by the way, Kohanim should know that they should stay away from certain forms of tumah. They have a higher standard, right? So once the Kohanim are treated differently, they'll respect themselves differently. And also, we'll try to emulate them. It's a good thing if we all try to be like the Kohanim.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.